It's Shingai Shonhiwa. My name is Falaka Sage. This is Life and Times.
Life and Times on Capital 100.4 FM.
Empty sky, open road, heaven is tumbling down. Here I am, there you are, waiting to take my hand. Hold me close, I'll be there to take away all of your fears. It's been so long since I knew love in the way it should feel. Cause I know and I know and I know and I know and I
I'm so excited. I'm really thrilled that firstly, I'm able to connect with you, but even more so because you are actually on a journey. Your music doesn't die, even in the period we're living in. How was that trip all the way to Italy during this time?
It's such a blessing, Cece, honestly, because the UK now it is a very kind of fluctual state and hasn't quite figured out how to position itself in terms of, social events, and that really affects the musical creative community in a large way. This year, we were dealt a massive blow, obviously, to the arts, not just in the UK. I know I'm not the only one, but we did a gig on the 9th of March. Little did we know we wouldn't be doing another gig for another 8 months. And all of our gigs and shows and concerts and festivals, dozens of them, which would have happened over the summer and the autumn to promote the record, were postponed, if not cancelled or whatever. And so there's there is a lot of kind of insecurity in the arts. But myself, being a Zimbabwean or Bantu diasporan, I feel like we are quite used to adversity and challenges, and we're quite used to learning from our parents' generation and, how to turn that into something positive. So, I mean, I could have paused everything. I could have said, you know what? Let's not make the let's not finish the record until, 21 when this is all blown over. But I said, no, Shingi. If anything, now more than ever, we need great music in my opinion, that is from the heart, that speaks to everybody that's going through the struggle. And somehow this record, even though it almost broke me to finish it, it feels like not only my own personal soundtrack and the soundtrack in my community of friends and family, but it feels like it could potentially be like a really amazing soundtrack for what a lot of us are going through. So I persevered, with my name, Shingai. Most people call me Shingi. My name means in Shona to be bold, to be determined, don't give up, etc. So I had to rise to the occasion.
And how perfectly timed is your album, your record? Last year, around about this time, that when you were working on War Room, you were going yourself through some difficult times. Exactly a year later, you are releasing Too Loud. It feels like it's perfectly timed. We can completely resonate with what you're trying to do. Even with songs like Tsitsi, when you are really speaking, to our ancestors, trying to evoke them and say things we don't Tsitsi in this time. That's how we're feeling. I mean, in this part of the world, especially Zim, where we just like, whatever you believe in, whether it's God, we're like pouring our hearts out to say, we need you in this time. That it's like a perfectly timed masterpiece that you could ever have written.
Thank you. Well, honestly, not only the song, but you put it so well. I feel like this album, in terms of its messaging, has become not just a personal prayer, but a piece of music that I hope that people can put on and feel like it is, kind of, as you said, evoking our own fears, but reminding us that we do have lineage. We do have a powerful culture which has the potential to nourish us so much. And it's sometimes only when things get tough that you realize, oh, wow, okay. It's like, in every superhero film, there's, like Clark Kent or whatever is like going about his day life. It's only when there's a problem that you have to use your superpower, and you have to remind yourself how to go, oh, here's my cape, here's my wand, or here's my prayer, or actually, here are my ancestors, here is all this cultural collateral that I have behind me that maybe when things were good, I didn't necessarily know how to use. And so yeah, maybe this album, as you're saying, for me, it's a personal prayer. It's it's a soundtrack to maybe personal movements, regardless of whichever songs relate to people. The last track actually that was finished on the album, the first time I'd ever written about losing a parent and grief and childhood grief. And a lot of us as diasporans have gone through that, especially those of us who were born in the 80s and 90s during the transitional phases coming out of kind of colonialism. And a lot of us lost parents, lost aunties, lost tetes, lost big sisters, lost mentors, lost people that they would look up to in the community. And it's something that, 10 years or so deep in the game, I've never really had confidence to address directly in music. And I said, Shingi, if I'm not going to do it now, then when am I going to do it? Because music has this amazing capacity to heal. And when I look at, great moments in history, like, whether it's the anti-colonial movement or the post-colonial movement, anti-racist. I think of artists like Miriam Makeba, the Mahotella Queens. I think of Thomas Mafumo. I think of Oliver Mtukudzi. I think of Fela Kuti, exactly. Yeah, I think of Nina Simone. I think of A Change Is Gonna Come, Sam Cooke. I think of artists such as Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. And I noticed, and I looked around at a lot of my contemporary peers, and we were having these conversations like, I just want, a lot of us want to write about stuff, but we've been maybe used to kind of trying to kind of secure our spot on the world stage. So we've been making music really for entertainment purposes, a lot. And I guess for our generation, it feels like it's the first time when we've been writing music to entertain people, but it's not necessarily something that can always sustain us. Like a lot of us have had to write a lot of hit singles, in the last 10 years. And there's a lot of incredible Black artists or artists of African origin that have been entertaining and like keeping pop music so excited for the last 10 years. But I said to myself, hang on a second, like there's a pandemic. There are people that are not just like us, are experiencing stuff. I want to take the risk and try to put some of my greatest fears and sadness and joy into songs. And that's not something that a lot of us are doing at the moment. And, so I just said, you know what, Spirit told me, go for it. And yeah, I didn't set out to write an album that had so much, kind of conscious messaging. It almost accidentally happened. And when I wrote the song about my father, which is called Ghost Town, losing a parent when you're kind of like 9-10 years old, I guess, there's a lot of things that our parents didn't tell us about in terms of their experiences when we were kids, because they wanted to empower us and they were still going through it, right? They still hadn't had a way to be listened to in their communities because they had to get on with it. They had to make ends meet. They had to put food on the table. They had to clothe us, all of these things. And so when I look back at it, I realized when I was writing this song that like my parents not only made such huge sacrifices, but their parents sacrificed their lives so that we could live, so that we could be free, so that we could have a free Zimbabwe or Malawi or Mozambique or Nigeria or Ghana or South Africa. And there's something really beautiful to be celebrated in that. And, there are artists like, For example, like Burna Boy has touched on some of these things in his record African Giant. He did this great collaboration with Manifest from Ghana. And I was like, we should be able to use music as a tool for expressing some of the things that our parents couldn't even have the time or the words to express with us because they were getting on with it. So this is definitely for our ones that not just the ones that we've lost, but our parents and our aunties and the communities that raised us that didn't get the chance to kind of sit down and have that therapy. So with Ghost Town, I realized a lot of us have lost family members due to post-colonial scars so that we could live.
Is it really worth it? Is this what it's come to? If I saw you hurting, would I be good to you? Would I take care of you? But when we reach the surface, oh, it's heavy down below.
Since you're coming out of the noisettes as Shingai, I actually feel like a lot of your music is very personal and very reflective, almost as if you're trying to connect with yourself, being Zimbabwean, but as well being British, and trying to say, this is who I am, but I'm trying to literally come home and connect with who I am. And I'm really loving just hearing you talk about the consciousness that you have of being a whole African. And when I listened to Tsitsi, I started asking myself questions even about ancestry and how rooted it is in who we are. Somewhere along the lines, we somewhat think that's dark and it's mythical and, all these other things. And as I was listening, especially to Tsitsi, I started wondering how you, as a Zimbabwean British, make sense of how does that inform who you are as a person?
Thank you so much for asking that question, because for a long time, I grew up feeling very polarized and too kind of British to be accepted as a full Zimbo, because I don't even fully speak the mother tongue. I actually spent a year, I don't speak Shona fully. And I don't speak Chichewa fully, which is my grandmother, Gogo's mother tongue. But there was something really powerful about getting together with my siblings, who are also artists. So the two people that are singing with me on Tsitsi is my sister, Chipo, and Kwaya and Chipo. Yeah, exactly. And Chipo really encouraged Kwaedza and myself because we were all trying to learn Shona as well during lockdown. So in order to cope with lockdown, we were scattered, in different cities. Most of us were in London, and we said, you know what, Mum had some, previous kind of health conditions. She's a breast cancer survivor. She's a stroke survivor. She's a Shumba, she just powers through, and so we didn't want to be stuck in London or somewhere indefinitely where we wouldn't be able to see her. So we all moved back to the family home in Kent for about 4 months. So from March until kind of end of July, we all moved back. Chipo, Kwaedza, and myself had a show called Grounded, live from the fan base. So we did a weekly stream every Saturday. And we started off just doing an hour show, whatever quiet songs Kwaedza was working on, whatever pieces Chipo was working on, because she's up doing incredibly well in musical theatre and film and TV in London. So she'd just come off tour that had got cut. She was supposed to be on this tour it was a good year job. And so her job had to finish early. And my gigs got cancelled. Kwaedza's record got delayed for the first time since we were teenagers with Amai and with everybody, and and so we said let's do something consistent. And so we started off by no visa hondo. We would try to sing songs that we loved from our childhood. Sometimes growing up, because I didn't have full possession and confidence of my mother tongue, I kind of felt like I wasn't able to be fully kind of accepted, in Zim, or fully accepted as a British English person. And to be honest, for me, what I've learned to do through music and through this lockdown period by writing songs like Sissy with my siblings is that it's just about finding that harmony. It's about finding the harmony between, you can harmonize the different aspects of the cultures and they can harmonize. And music is a great way to, like, I don't know, find a really, really beautiful middle ground. In terms of the future going forward, I really want the music, especially for Too Bold, to be something that is, you know, a gift of sorts and appreciated on the African continent. Because I feel like as an African child, you feel like you're always wondering in the West if you've never, you could have made it. Like, I'm a platinum selling artist and all this kind of stuff, but it means nothing to me what I've achieved in the West if I don't feel like it's made a positive difference back home. I'm trying to show people that we all have our individual take on our cultural identity, and no matter what you're given, you still have to find the right balance for you. So music is the way that I try to do it. Yeah.
So how on earth does a rock indie musician end up playing instruments that are made of fruit from Zimbabwe and is owning that? Don't you have some sort of pressure to live up to the Noisettes versus Shingi?
You know what? I can answer a part of that question by saying that I had to become truly independent. I was forced, and I'm so grateful for that, to actually establish my own label with a very small team of people, and to actually bring the audience that I cultivated with actually the musical blessings that originally, in my opinion, come from our heritage. So I may have been perceived to play huge pop songs, you know, whether it's like the Hey Hey, which is a huge house and dance hit, you know, in Africa as well. For me, I've always seen and felt that my musicality, the blessings come from my heritage. I have a big musical heritage in terms of my uncle Thomas Mafumo, and my mum's brother, Uncle Oswald, was an incredible drummer who passed away when I was 13 or 14. He gave me my first pair of drumsticks and just said, look, it's in your blood, it's in our heritage, it's in your DNA. So wherever you go, know that this is something that can kind of almost accompany you on the road, you know, road of life. And so for me, although I was signed to a major label for about 7 or 8 years, kind of 3 albums with the Noisettes where I'm playing bass, I'm playing guitar, I explored different instruments. I always did that to shine a light on African Black contribution to pop music. People will often try to, in sort of popular modern journalism, assign guitar music or rock or, you know, blues-inspired music to kind of a very kind of white Western kind of idiom. But that all comes from Africa, and I've played with some incredible musicians like Paul McCartney or members of Led Zeppelin and so many huge bands, and they would say, you've got this. We love rock and roll because we learned from Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was an incredible African-American blues, soul, rock guitarist and gospel guitarist from the 40s and 50s. So people like Sister Rosetta Tharpe, people like Odetta, Manu Dibango, people like Hugh Masekela, they were a big part of like the way a lot of white musicians see rock and roll. They give so much tribute to the African contribution to rock and roll. Music is just this wonderful, evolving, source of expression, which anybody can play. Like, you know, it doesn't matter what color you are, you can enjoy and tap into Afro beats or jazz. I had something really authentic to offer, and the pressure is off now because creatively I can kind of do what I want, and I just want to give it all back to us. I want to see that recognition of Black females in pop music. I want to see that recognition of Africa's influence in pop music.
I love that. And is the industry players welcoming to Shingai as well? Have you felt at any point a sense of rejection or surprise even sometimes that, well, hang on, I'm Shingai from the Nezets. Why would you not want to support me, or why would you not want to be a part of this? Has that happened?
Yes, that's what actually led me to become independent, because I was offered a lot of big money deals to say, okay, we just want you to be solo, carry on being, sexy Shingi with the bass, big hair, da 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 da. But we just want you to make exactly the same record that you made with your last Noisettes record. And that's just not the way that music works. Most artists will tell you that we are only as good as the record that we are now wanting to create, following on from our last record. So I did feel a sense of lack of support. I wouldn't say rejection, but there was definitely a lack of support in the sense that, like, well, we're not going to sponsor you, we're not going to endorse you, we're not going to support you unless you continue to make the music that we feel that is going to be successful in this territory. And I just thought to myself, wow, Black artists create a lot of wealth for these companies, okay? And often Black artists, especially female artists, are the least of the concern. We are the least looked after, we are the least supported, we are the least funded. Even if we, like, for example, I may have been platinum, but that's because I took the show on the road. I didn't necessarily have the same kind of billboards or the same kind of, budget allocation in terms of promotion and positioning. So I had to think, how am I going to get this music out to the world? And that is, I have to just be the most incredible live musician. I had to do it from stage to stage, from this venue to venue, from this festival to this festival, often being the only Black female to festivals in Singapore, in Asia, and so what I learned from that was that you have to not be afraid to create a sense of not just only a sense of ownership, but understand what you're bringing to the table and understand where that comes from, because then you can continue to make work that is sustainable. And there's a lot of musicians, Black female musicians, that get one chance, one single, one album. They get 5 minutes, and it's a quota. In the West, it's a one in, one out situation, and that's what so inspires me about the African music scene right now. It's so supportive of women. Like, we've got some incredible female artists. Obviously, a lot of them are Zimbabwean from our, Shasha, Tammy Moyo. We've got, from Gemma. I mean, there's a long line from Chioniso, and there are a lot of us
one
also
that you would love to collaborate with in the near future.
I mean, I love what Yemi Alade's done, Busiswa. There's so many of us, but in terms of the Zim side, I actually started a track with Shasha like 2 years ago when I was on a short trip with Zim, because I was making the video for Coming Home, and I had a day off, and she was in town, and we were like, let's go into the studio. So we went to the studio and we started a song, but we didn't actually get to finish it. So I'm hoping to finish that song. But yeah, I just think any female artists that are just like able to kind of rep the kind of contemporary futuristic, Afro-futuristic sound that I think is really exciting for me, but also female artists that are unafraid to kind of like rep their own tone. Like, there's just something really beautiful about the female growing African music scene. And as I said, when I was doing that with the Noisettes on the major label, I mean, I had a song called Iwe on my first album, and the label never cared, or they didn't care to ask me what that meant until 8-9 years later, when suddenly Africa was fashionable. They're like, oh, you had this song called Ewa. I was like, well, so right now it's about looking forward and us supporting each other. I think there's strength in numbers. I think women, especially African female artists, whether we are in the diaspora, in the US, whether we're in Australia, there's some incredible Zimbabwean artists, even in Australia. like we need to just get together and collaborate more. So let's just hit me up, like hit
What
me
do you
up, man. Like we send each other beats or whatever.
think though is taking so long for us to connect on that level as Africans? Because I'm thinking even artists like Burna Boy, we love him as a continent, but he feels far away. He doesn't feel connectable in this part of the world. And I'm thinking even artists like Winky D, whom we love in this part of the world, chances are he doesn't really connect with North Africa either. So where do you think we are missing it as a continent, where we should be coming together more creatively to break beyond these imaginary borders that we have, so that we become closer? To me, it feels strange that Burna Boy can collaborate and do better with Western artists than he would with African artists.
Yes.
In my mind, he should have more collaborations with his own people. And
I agree. And I believe, I totally agree with you. And I really think that some of it comes down to the way that a lot of us as Africans are so used to seeking validation outside of Africa, outside of our communities. We're like, oh, I haven't made it unless I've done a collaboration with this American artist or with this, you know, kind of Western artist. And I think we've come a long way in terms of establishing our creative fierceness. But what we need to do is set up the industry so that it actually actively encourages collaborations intercontinentally. Like I would love to see Kenyan artists, you know, collaborating with Ghanaian artists collaborating with Zimbabwean artists. So there are different factors, and I think sadly some of the factors are just that a lot of African artists, once they, you know, hit a certain level of success, they want to go out and be validated. And I had a similar thing where in the Noisettes, I was like, look, I want to get to a certain amount of achievement so that like Africans can be proud of me and want to work with me. Because actually 10 years ago, you know, when I was just me and my guitar and starting with the Noisettes, I wanted to do collaborations with African artists. And actually, I had an incredible moment where my first time singing in Shona was with Tuku. So I had this amazing moment where for Tuku's 60th, I did some concerts with him. I remember even then, like kind of 2010, 11, 12, 13, it was hard for me to feel like I wanted to collaborate with Zim artists, but I kind of felt like maybe a lot of them wanted to collaborate with the bigger American kind of guns. And so sometimes that is maybe a lack of our infrastructure in the creative infrastructure. Like we need like really sustainable structures. We don't need to copy the same format as the Western, say, major record label per se, but we do need to have homes for multiple artists to kind of, you know, organize, pattern up, get together, you know, and, you know, we need to not feel that we need to leave home to have made it, you know, because there are people like me who didn't grow up at home, who I'm like, I haven't made it until I can be accepted or I can have a fulfilling creative experience or collaboration at home. So we're probably both thinking similar things, but from different sides, you know, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. How easy has it been for you to bring in your Southern Africa feel to your music, where Mbira and the Hosho, for example, are born, to find the right team to be able to translate exactly what you are trying to create in your new music?
I think I just literally, you said it right there. It's not just about finding the right team. It's about not giving up and making and forging connections with musicians that speak that language. Ancient Futures is a really good example of that. You know, like I said, it was my first like forging on my own path. I didn't get the support of the kind of pop music industry in the UK. I got a lot of support from the American side of things, because they seem to really embrace you know, artists that are kind of embracing their African heritage and know how to translate it. So I used a lot of the craftsmanship that I'd learned in writing big pop songs, and I said, I am not making a world music record. It's not that kind of party. Because when Paul Simon or white artists that we look up to, or whether it's, you know, even Ed Sheeran can go and sing an Afrobeat song he did a song where he was singing in a Ghanaian language, you know, and that was a huge hit, and that was called pop. And I said, if I am gonna do this next level, everything that I've learned in the Noisettes has to work to give back and drive creative prosperity in Africa. So my thing about Ancient Futures was that I wanted to remind people that there are so many melodies and rhythms that are like so catchy, so poppy, so fun, like
and
that just make
that.
you move. Yeah, and so that was my way of like figuring out how to do it. I got together with producers that really understood that sound, that had worked in pop and that had also worked with African artists. So working with OK Sharp, who's worked with Manti Rabani, who's an incredible Southern African model, dancer, and artist. Was great working with him. Working with Sekuru Gabriel Makamanzi and Zivai, who are the guitar player and the percussion section for Thomas Mafumo's touring band, respectively. That taught me a lot. I had to listen. I had to step out of my comfort zone, Sissy. I had to go, okay, I'm used to making records in a certain way with a band, sat round guitars or sat round pianos, but now I'm going to try something different, but I'm going to make it pop. And the videos have to be shot in Zim. I had to create a network of supporters. So many artists and institutions in Zimbabwe supported that. And without that support, as a diasporan person, I would have felt it would have been very difficult to do that. I had to let people know that this record was for us, by us, but it had to be made in a way that the standard was slick, the production was slick, and that it could make its way onto playlists around the world like it did, you know. And I'm really proud that it's still growing, and I'm really proud that a lot of people that didn't support it from the from the kind of commercial Noisettes camp that I had to evolve from. Now they're like, wow, okay, yeah, I wish, you know, that was amazing. And that's actually inspired a wave of you know, African creatives, females feeling like they can channel their roots and still create pop music that they love.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
and I think there's a I was trying to remember as you were talking which one it is that has the sax in there, and I thought, wow, that's such a great unexpected fusion.
We roll,
yes. I really love your album. It's like, it's
thank you. But you know, but lyrically, you're right, because you know when you said something about how do you kind of like channel like what you've learned in the pop sphere and then actually use that and make a record that really speaks about your heritage with those same tools. It's using the tools that I had learned in the pop game and going, okay, I'm going to get together with Charlie K. Like I said, step out your comfort zone, work with Zimbabwean producers, you know, like Charlie K from Incredible Music and Oliver. Like, I had to go for it and show them that I had something to bring to the party as well.
And I love that
you
because
know?
whilst it's Afro pop, it isn't Afro. It's not your typical Afro pop. I love that song. I really do.
It's inspired by Afro beats, but I needed to have guitars in there because I know that as band we love guitars. Like
Yeah.
we love Tuku, we love Sungura, we love Lena Dembo. It's like Zims. We love guitars. So I said, look, I want to do an Afro beats inspired track because I love it, and I want to. It's basically for me, if like Afro beats and like Bantu guitars and vibes had a love child. We should be on this huge collaborative train right now, but a lot of us are worried about when to time it in terms of our careers. Some of us just want to make it in the West before we get together, and I think we can make it together. I think we can rise up. There's no competition. Like, it's just going to be beautiful. It's going to be authentic. Just bring whatever skills and whatever love that you have to the party. Know and own your talent, own your skills, male, female, whether you're a singer, whether you're an instrumentalist. This is a great time. Like, we should be owning it. We should be getting together. So we roll. Like, literally on Monday, I remember, like, I left messages for some of my friends in Zim going, I was crying. I was like, oh my God. Like, I just, like, for me, the album's out today. Obviously, that was only a few days ago. And they were like, why are you so upset? I'm like, because I can hear it on the radio here, but if it's not on the radio in Zim, there's something wrong. I haven't, for me, it's all for you guys. It's like, it's for us. We've given so much to pop music already, and I think in the West, our seat has been achieved. Like, it's great, but what we want, a lot of us diasporans who are outside, is we want the music that we make to be, enjoyed by you guys. So for me, everything was just so perfect. The album was out, and I was like, I want one of my aunties to call me and say, hey, we're listening to Widow. Because it's for us.
It is for us. And I think you said something very powerful. And I think until we as Africans start to really challenge that, we will be stuck in this place. And let me give a different example. So when we look even at our film industry, until an African film applies for an Oscar nomination or whatever and gets that kind of recognition, we don't feel like it's a great movie. We don't feel like it's made it, because we have allowed someone else's standards to become our own. And yet we need to be setting our own standards in terms of our music, in terms of our hair. And that's something that I love about you as well. And when I've seen the new Shingai and how you embrace your hairstyles, and I say, yes, my banzayo. And as we've gotten older, we thought, extensions were better, the weaves are better. And here is Shingai living out in the UK, ironically, rocking her natural threaded hairstyle and saying, because I'm a proud African and this is what we do home. And suddenly I found myself feeling like that little girl that said, finally, someone who rocks a hairstyle that I can relate to and has put it out there to make me feel beautiful and worthy.
This is beautiful that you say that, because you hit the nail on the head when you said something along the lines of, we wait until somebody else validates our beauty, our content, our creativity, when we don't realize that in America and the UK, they are still mining Africa and African descendants for this incredible, timeless, ancient creativity, which never seems to sort of end. And so with this campaign, being independent means that even if too bold, will grow slowly, organically. We need to do our own machine of approval. We need to stop waiting for validation from outside, because while we're so busy looking outside and looking away, people are taking from within.
And they are, aren't they? We're continuously being harvested and we don't even know it. Even now we're seeing our African culture being, what's the word, appropriated by, other people. And
Yes.
Suddenly we feel like, oh yeah, Africa is the place to be. But we were always the place to be.
If we're not going to say it now, when are we going to say it? I feel like it's time for us to create a format and a model, not just in terms of a structured business, to create and invest in African homegrown creative companies, and investing with people that respect us, share our values, and can give the next generation of artists, no reason to fear. The title of the album is going to be named after the track that I feel carries it. It's the first riff I ever wrote on the guitar when I was 16, and Amai helped me save up to get my first guitar. And so sometimes it can take 20 years for a song to be ready. And so although I felt this album was made, Too Bold just came to me and said, listen, mama, this one is missing. Take your time. This has been a kind of piece of work that you've been chipping away at making. It's been a house that you've been building ever since you got the calling to be a musician, in, playing guitar in the boys' world, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we called it Too Bold. This really is our song.
So did you self-fund on this project?
Yes, entirely.
And did that change in any way your perception of the music industry, of yourself as an artist, when you have to self-fund in comparison to where the record label is taking care of all the costs?
Well, it becomes more of a family project, and it means so much more, because when you invest in yourself, especially as a Black female, and you do what gogos did and what aunties did, which is go without. Like, I've not been balling, I've not been going out, cool, my dinners, like, I wanted to invest in it, because not only am I worth it in terms of, I feel, what I've given and brought to the musical landscape, and I hope that I've inspired, but I just really felt my spirit was telling me, Shingi, don't worry about it. It's going to pay off, because I need this record, let alone if anyone else. I need this record, it's part of my healing. It's part of my joy and celebration of our incredible ancient, contemporary, futuristic talents. And it's my way of saying, let's invest in ourselves, let's invest in each other, let's invest in our culture, because then nobody can contaminate it, nobody can compromise it. And those that come on board, like you, Sissy, come on board for real.
Wow, Queen, it is always enriching to connect with someone who is not just passionate about home, but is living whatever home looks like to them in their mind, and connecting with what makes them African, what makes them part of Ubuntu. And you, Queen, are onto something. May your flame not be dimmed by something. May it not be diminished, and may it not be stolen. May you continue to be that role model that a girl in Zimbabwe needs, a girl in Africa needs, to feel beautiful, to feel valid, and to understand that who we are as Africans is not any less. Thank you so much for having been here with us.
Thank you. And may we continue to invest in each other as well. That's such an important thing for me. Let's invest in those future Zim girls. I only hope that I can inspire in the way that you said that I am. And I can't wait to see you and to celebrate your wins, because your win is my win.
Yes.
When you win, I win.
We win together.
That's it,
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Woo!
Absolutely. Shingai, thank you so much for doing this. We wish you the best on your mini tour in Italy as you are pushing your new album, Too Bold. Stay bold in everything that you do, Queen. We love you. Thank you so much for being on Capital 100.4 FM. We are Harare's Heartbeats.
To wild for this world ever since I was a girl, like a diamond or a pearl. Feeling the pressure, yeah, pushing on me, yeah, crushing on me, yeah, making me ill. Gotta be still, say this is not for me. working together. Baby, I wanna build something. Yeah. You give me pleasure, baby, I treasure. Even though we came from nothing, nothing. Hey, you had me at your back. Who knew it would end like that? You know what, better than that. You had me at your back. Who knew it would end like that? You know what, better than that. Taking me higher, and I feel the fire. We gon' watch it burn. We gon' watch it burn. So tell me, is it forever when we were together? I guess we'll live and love. You had me at your back. Who knew it would end like that? You know what, better than that. You had me at your back. Who knew it would end like that? You know what, better than that. Some wanna keep it rolling, some wanna keep it rolling, some wanna keep it rolling, 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 yeah. Some wanna keep it rolling, some wanna keep it rolling, some wanna keep it rolling, 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 yeah. I've got the African heat coming through with that London cheek. Rock and roll in my blood this week. Warriors in my ancestry. On the grind, never got no sleep. We were best friends and it was so deep. Something you just can't keep. If I see you on the road, it will still be peace. Swing it like a bossa nova. Tap it like a Casanova.